if you're creating a joke just for it to be a racial joke, then and it's insensitive, then that's on the person.
Yeah, we're sitting here at George Lopez's house, and it is like a memorabilia. It's like a Hard Rock Cafe, a Latino Hard Rock Cafe.
You know, if somebody were to say, like, why does all this stuff mean so much to me, you know? And I think what it is, now that I'm an adult, now that I'm as old as I am, that when I was growing up, you know, my grandparents raised me, and I had some friends, but not much family. So when you watch sports and you watch TV and you watch movies, they tend to be the people that inspire you and that you get joy from and even motivate you at times. So almost like when you're on the playground and you do the jungle bar, you know, like you go from one bar to the other. Mm-hmm. Like these are all like one bar to another from my life. You know, Santana and Mil Máscaras, growing up and watching wrestling and going to see wrestling, and then going to see Mil Máscaras when I was 12 at Devonshire Downs, and he came out with his suit after he wrestled with his mask and his gym bag, and us kids were following to his car, and he got into the car in his wrestling mask, and he drove off in his wrestling mask.
Wearing the mask?
Like, what the? Yeah, he drove off with it, and it was that mask. It was one of those masks. So a guy knew him and got him to give me one of those masks for my birthday, and then he and I became friends. And I mean, so it is a Hard Rock Cafe of memorabilia.
It's a Hard Rock hotel of memorabilia,
Yeah.
and I'm so impressed with everything that you have, and then the Richard Pryor tennis shoes and your connection with Richard Pryor. How did you get those tennis shoes?
You know, I saw those shoes in People magazine in the 70s. He was by his pool at his house, and he was wearing those shoes with Richard and Pryor on the back of them, and I thought, how do you get those shoes? How do you get those shoes made? And I found out that, you know, it was Richard Pryor, and they said, hey, we'll make you some shoes. You know, his widow, Jennifer, and I have become very close friends. So in doing the fundraiser for Richard Pryor's statue to be completed in Peoria, myself and Cedric and Mike Epps and Charlie Murphy, God rest his soul, and then DL and myself, that as part of that, and then part of helping his foundation, she would give me, you know, things to, because she knew how much I loved him and how much it would mean for me to have that. It's also a chair in the living room with his picture that was his favorite chair.
I like how you put the picture there so no one else sits there. Don't sit there because...
Like in a museum, don't sit there.
Right.
Because that's, yeah, so...
also your connection with Eddie Van Halen. I mean, you got Eddie Van Halen stuff and you got Santana stuff. Here's my question, because I'm in the memorabilia space. It's so much different than when you buy one from, Field of Dreams, Montana Signature, versus this is Eddie Van Halen, 1980 guitar shot, and you got his guitar.
Signed it. Yeah, you got the guitar. You know, it's interesting with that. That's a good point, because, you know, memorabilia is so much of what people collect. It's a worldwide business, and I would be that person. Like, if I saw something that somebody had, and I would imagine them having it, you go, wow, so this is what he really had. He had this, and you're like, okay, but you didn't get it from him. But when you get it from somebody and you know that they wore it, you know that he played those guitars even in this house, it's special. You know, Van Halen was, again, you know, in my high school, 1978, that first album. To see him at the Forum, and then Eddie and I started playing golf. We became friends like 10 years ago, and then we were playing over here at Roosevelt one day, and we're walking, and we're talking about the first time that they headlined at the Forum when they came off this tour, and Eddie's so sweet, man. He's like, you were there? And I said, yeah. He goes, I was there. I go, I know you were there, but I was there, yeah. Just those things are so great, and it's not that you go out of your way to make friends with the people that you admire. It just kind of turned out that way. Like with Carlos Santana, and as well as Cheech. You know, Cheech introduced me to Carlos Santana, and then Carlos Santana and I became friends. And, you know, Kobe, I met Kobe when Kobe came to.
Yeah, that's the next one I was going to touch on was you have a Kobe Bryant painting. You have Kobe Bryant everything. You know, pictures of Kobe Bryant, his jersey, his game-worn shoes with 45 points. How close were you with Kobe, and and all the stuff that you have.
Yeah, you know, when he first came as a rookie, I saw him play at the Forum. And then when my show was starting to take off, and 2002, I started going to the games, and the show was on. So you immediately, you know, make like a connection of, hey, he comes over, says hello, as they do, you know, as you've seen, and then staying connected to him during all of those years. And then he got married with Vanessa, and Vanessa's mom was a fan. And then when on Christmas Day, in the late 2000s, when Shaq came back as part of the Heat, and they played each other. It was a big Christmas Day game. I had my daughter with me, and she was running around. And then Vanessa at halftime said, "Hey, why don't you have your daughter come up and sit with the girls?" And then you start to see the girls all the time. You start to see Vanessa. So, yeah, I mean, that's you know, to start the year like that, it's so devastating to every family and every person. And but it's also what I think I started to find as I got older, a reminder of how special relationships are, how special family is, and how special sports and what those memories mean in your life. And, you know, I put that up there with Gigi and Kobe, that by the door, so that when I leave, there's not a guarantee that you ever come back, but it's also a reminder to make every time you're with somebody a little bit special, so that they stay with you, you know, even when people are gone.
Like this moment right here, special with you. I've known you since like '98.
We've known each other a long time, and I mean that. You know, this business.
I remember you. I saw you at the Ice House, the Laugh Factory, and I saw you in so many different moments of your life. You know, it's amazing everything I've seen you through.
It's you know. I worked really hard. Like, you know, it's almost like in that Rocky where Mr. T was in it, where as Rocky was waving to all the fans, and he was a heavyweight champ. You see Mr. T in the basement doing sit-ups and jumping rope and hitting the heavy bag. Like, I believe that as impossible as it is to achieve in your dedicated field, the harder you work reduces the possibility of it being impossible. So I wanted to work harder when I wasn't around it. You know, I always got up early because my grandparents got up early, and I started to work early, and I just started to just kind of take out any reasonable doubt, like any shady area. Like, they go, is he funny? Yeah, I saw him, and he wasn't as good as that time I saw him the first time. So I just wanted to just find some consistency in a business where every time you perform in front of an audience, it's a different audience. So I had to be consistent.
Be the craziest guy in the room?
Be the craziest person in the room. And I got that from Chicago, because when I was working in Chicago, the third show on a Saturday was people from Cabrini Green. There were people from the outside of Chicago that come to the late show. And the first two guys would always take a beating. And I thought, you know, I'm not gonna take a beating this show. And I said, I'll just be the craziest person in the room.
You know, I want to talk about your comedy just a little bit here. As a Latino, you bring up, like, every single time I've seen you, and think online, on Netflix, on YouTube, there's always this piece of this stuff. It doesn't matter if you're Chilean, Colombian, Venezuelan, El Salvador. It doesn't matter. We all do this. I mean, even, not to mention, it isn't just limited to Latino. All families do these little things of hiring Latinos to do these jobs and falling off the roof and doing this and like all these jokes that you bring. I'm like, oh yeah, I never heard anybody say that, but you. I never heard. And you bring these, like, it's like you go like, oh yeah, this happened to me. Right. And you just like literally come here from this Latino world and just like, oh, this happens to everybody, including white people, everybody in the world. This happens because you've hired us to work on your houses and to do all this stuff. You know,
and as racial humor gets more difficult to do, and as you start to look into the past of a comedian and say, you know, was he racially insensitive? A lot of people, they're pulling out. Was I? Yes. But were there my stories? Yes. So was I? Absolutely. Were they my stories? Yes. Did I make them up? No. You know, but I find the charm in those situations that if you're creating a joke just for it to be a racial joke, then, and it's insensitive, then that's on the person. But I remember when I hired a guy to come and do tile, he pulls up in the car and he gets out, and his wife slides over to the driver's seat, and she's pushing the gas every 30 seconds. You just hear, and we're talking, taking him around the house, and then I said to him, you know, turn the car off, and you know, have him come in, and he said no, because if it turns off, it won't start again.
Exactly.
So that went in there, and he looked at the house and made an estimate just by eye, and then one house, my wife was going into this elaborate plan of what she wanted done on the walkway, and she has ideas like this, and she's showing the guy, and the guy looks at the other guy, and she's showing the guy, and the guy looks at the other guy. The wife goes, what? And he goes, no, you know, keep talking. She goes, no, what? And he goes, you know, with all due respect, and he says to the guy, como decimos en la otra casa el pasado semana. He goes, oh, okay. He goes, what? He said, just like the yard we did and the walkway we did at the other house last week, it's like, you know, he was telling her, you know, I got it. You know, I appreciate you laying it out for me, but we do these every week.
And it's a testament to you that you've kept this going. It just seems like it's this endless lake of comedy and things that you keep pulling out. I mean, your new Netflix special, I was like, every comedian that comes out or has been around, let's see, including Richard Pryor, Robin Williams, let's see what else, because that's always the judgment mark. Let's see, okay, last year you were funny, this year you were funny. And again, with this Netflix special and everything, you're still bringing all these cool, funny, I still watch, and you still have this huge following, and it's awesome to see you.